Let's say China.
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 China. China.
China.
China.
They're our next door neighbors, and you can actually see Russia from land here in Alaska.
You go over to China. China.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Trump statement, tweeting out insults to Angela Merkel. What's he doing?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host.
Yes. Hello, and welcome. I am James Andrews, and you are listening to So This Happened, the only news you need if your name is Engelbert, or Humperdinck, or Steve. It's Tuesday, the 3rd of October 2017, and I just want to start off by paying my own personal tribute to Tom Petty, an amazing musician, a songwriter who passed away last night. And there was a little bit of a media glitch, I think is probably the right word to use, when his death was reported hours before he in fact passed away. He was on life support after suffering a cardiac arrest, and TMZ jumped the gun and said Tom Petty has died. Pretty much every news network and all over Twitter picked that up and started sending condolences to a man who wasn't quite dead. Unfortunately, he did pass away shortly before midnight last night, but again, that must have just been horrific for his family, seeing all these news reports about the fact that Tom had died when in fact he hadn't. And that's there's a lesson in that, isn't there? Sort of check your facts, make sure you've got everything right before you go on TV or radio and say, hey, guess what happened? Anyway, that's besides the point. Tom Petty, a wonderful man, and he will be sorely missed. So do yourself a favour, and tonight have a listen to some Tom Petty. Remind yourself just how good he was. And because everything's been a bit heavy in the news recently with the Las Vegas shootings and the Puerto Rico disaster over there with the hurricane, just wanted to lighten things up just a little bit. And if you ever want some comic relief, you really just have to listen to Boris Johnson, the British politician who is, well, he looks a little bit, well no, not just a little bit, he looks exactly like Barney Rubble. If you could imagine a posh Barney Rubble, that's Boris Johnson. Anyway, today he suggested that Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour leader, be sent into space in a speech that, well, it gave me a chuckle. I think it's worth a listen.
We have a growing space program run by my brother Joe Johnson. And I have a candidate, my friends, for the first man we gently blast into orbit. And that is the superannuated space cadet from Islington. And I know he has an innocent and vol-trousered air, but his domestic policies, Jeremy Corbyn's domestic policies, would rack up debt that our children and grandchildren would be unable to pay. And his foreign policies would imperil not just this country, but our friends and our neighbours as well. Conference, we cannot allow it to happen.
Oh, thanks, Boris, for a little chuckle there. No matter what you think of the man's policies, he is quite funny. Looking as well as sounding. I don't know if it's intentional. I've always wondered about Boris Johnson, whether he's intentionally sort of this dishevelled, eccentric Englishman, whether that's genuine or whether it's just a complete and utter act. But either way, he does it quite well. Anyway, on to a politician who is neither funny, charming, or, well, Donald Trump. What else can you say, right? He and Melania flew to Puerto Rico today, and in the press conference when they landed in Air Force One, he gave a short speech, about 17 minutes or so, and I've selected my favourite parts of it. And in typical Donald Trump fashion, he made it all about himself and how fabulous he's done. He made a few choice remarks about how beautiful Puerto Rico is, and then one where he actually mentioned how nice the weather was, which I don't know what he was smoking on that one. He's going to a country that has been ravished by a hurricane, and he makes a comment about how beautiful the weather is. Then he went on to say that they should be proud that not as many people died in Puerto Rico as did in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, your president.
It was a great trip and a beautiful place. I've been to Puerto Rico many times, as I think most of you have known, and I've always loved it. And your weather is second to none, but every once in a while you get hit. And you really got hit. There's no question about it. Your governor has been, who I didn't know. I heard very good things about him. He's not even from my party, and he started right at the beginning appreciating what we did. And he was tremendously supportive, and he knew the level of problem that you had at the beginning before, and the level what happened with respect to the tremendous storms that hit your beautiful island. And Governor, I just want to tell you that right from the beginning, this governor did not play politics. He didn't play it at all. He was saying it like it was, and he was giving us the highest grades. And I want to, on behalf of our country, I want to thank you. It was really amazing. Mick Mulvaney is here, right there, and Mick is in charge of a thing called budget. Now, I hate to tell you, Puerto Rico, but you've thrown our budget a little out of whack, because we've spent a lot of money on Puerto Rico, and that's fine. We've saved a lot of lives. If you look at the, every death is a horror, but if you look at a real catastrophe like Katrina, and you look at the tremendous hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that died, and you look at what happened here with really a storm that was just totally overpowering. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. Now, what is your death count as of this moment? 17?
16 certified.
16 people certified. 16 people versus in the thousands. You can be very proud of all of your people, all of our people working together. 16 versus literally thousands of people. You can be very proud. Everybody around this table and everybody watching can really be very proud of what's taken place in Puerto Rico.
So there's Donald Trump in Puerto Rico saying how wonderful the response from him, particularly him, has been to the tragedy in Puerto Rico. Now, not everybody on the ground was quite as excited about it as he was. In fact, most of the residents that have been interviewed by the news media are essentially saying, well, A, the help is coming too late, and B, it's not enough help, and C, what the hell can anybody do? We're in an absolute disaster area, and the president coming here really isn't going to change anything other than put his face on the television. So here's what a few actual Puerto Rico residents said.
I'm not very infatuated with the idea because he's not really interested in helping us, so I'd actually prefer him staying over there because him coming is not really going to make a difference.
What can I say? What he's gonna do here?
Wow, what a question. What would I tell him?
And there are people that lost everything thanks to this, so we need help.
I know that the United States is going through a situation right now in Las Vegas and everything, but to worry about his people, we're part of the United States too, and it would be really nice if we could help economically and everything.
So it seems that not everybody who actually lives in Puerto Rico believes that Donald Trump has done the absolutely stellar job that he believes he has. He went on in his press conference, in fact, to say, and I quote, "In Texas and in Florida, we get an A+. And I'll tell you what, I think we've done just as good in Puerto Rico." End quote. And most of the people in Puerto Rico still have no clean water or power. So whether they would give Donald Trump an A+ is a debatable thing. Actually, it's not debatable, is it? They wouldn't give him an A+. And to let you know just how bad things are in Puerto Rico, and I don't want to bring you down, but these are important things to know, because that way we can do things about it. We can actually donate money to aid organizations that will make a difference. As far as healthcare goes in Puerto Rico right now, 44% of the population lack access to any clean drinking water, and only one of the 69 hospitals on the island is operational. Now, as far as their crops go, which is a huge part of their economy, 80% have been wiped out. That is a $780 million value of crops that have been lost. And as far as communications go, it's even worse. 91% of the cellular communications are out of service on the island. 1,360 of the 1,600 cell towers collapsed during the hurricane, and 85% of the phone and internet cable was destroyed. I'm going to throw one more fact at you that I find really sad. Only 54% of Americans are aware that Puerto Ricans are in fact US citizens. So when Donald Trump's over there giving a speech like he did today, and he said there, you know what, Puerto Rico, you're putting a bit of a dent in my budget, damn it. I mean, we love you, but you are putting a dent in the budget. That shouldn't even be something that's mentioned. Puerto Rico is part of the US. It should be handled exactly the same way as Texas and Florida, even though, as Donald Trump discovered recently, it is an island surrounded by water. I mean, you can't drive there. It's an island. And I just want to throw out a few websites to you where you can donate money that will go directly to helping the people in Puerto Rico. The first one is UNICEF, and the website is unicef.org/hurricane/donations. The second one is the Red Cross. That's simply redcross.org. And the final one is a company called Direct Relief, and their website is directrelief.org. Now, all of these organizations you can donate money to, and their money will go directly to the people in Puerto Rico who are suffering from the effects of Hurricane Maria. And now moving back to the mainland US. See how I did that? Mainland US? Just to remind you that Puerto Rico is in fact part of the US. It's just an island surrounded by water that you cannot drive to. Today, everybody has been talking about the shootings in Las Vegas. And what a lot of people have been talking about is, wait, is it now time to have slightly stricter gun control laws in the US? This was a terrible tragedy which could potentially have been avoided by simply having stronger gun control laws. Well, the White House doesn't think it's quite time to discuss that yet. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, in her press conference today, said this when asked if it was time to consider stronger gun control in the US.
Look, this is an unspeakable tragedy. Today is a day for consoling the survivors and mourning those we lost. Our thoughts and prayers are certainly with all of those individuals. There's a time and place for a political debate, but now is the time to unite as a country. There's currently an open and ongoing law enforcement investigation. A motive is yet to be determined, and it would be premature for us to discuss policy when we don't fully know all the facts or what took place last night. I think that
What the fuck are you talking about? Seriously, what is she talking about? She said, we don't have all the facts. We don't know really what happened. No, we do. We know exactly what happened. A man went into a hotel room with a bunch of fucking guns and shot people. It's as simple as that. You can do as many investigations as you want and you can find out why in his deranged mind he did it, but that does not alter the fact that he did it because he had access to a shitload of guns. So, if now is not the time for a debate, when is? I mean, seriously, you can dance around saying, well, we don't really know why he did it. It might be that he was, a member of ISIS, or maybe he was just a bit mental in the head, or maybe he was angry because he didn't like country music and it was keeping him awake. We don't know why he did it, but we really can't discuss whether or not the guns had anything to do with it. Did they hear themselves? Did they actually listen to what they're saying? Does Sarah Huckabee Sanders say, wait a sec, did I really just say that now's not really a good time to talk about guns because we don't know what happened? We do. We know exactly what happened. And then she said, let's not politicize this. Let's just mourn the deaths and then, tomorrow we can maybe have a discussion, which we won't, but that's what she's saying. Well, I tell you what, if I ever get shot in a mass shooting, please feel free to politicize the shit out of my death the second it happens. You have my absolute permission. If I get shot in another mass shooting, politicized the fuck out of it. Anyway, we're out of time for today, unfortunately. It was a good conversation as always, and we can continue this conversation on Twitter at So This Happened, or on Facebook if you'd like to do that. It's facebook.com/James Andrews. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you are listening to this. Anyway, have a great evening, and we will do this all over again tomorrow. Good night.